Be careful up there. How does it feel up there? Can you see a lot of things when you're all the way up there? How far can you see when you're at the top?
Now here we see Jenny and her 4-year-olds. And Jenny is talking to the children and using the space words. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
Well, we're playing on this Snaptown equipment, which is really wonderful stuff. It's all kinds of tunnels and different tiered boxes that the kids can climb on and through and around and under. And they're just having fun, but you can kind of remind them where they are on the equipment, and it really uses space words, direction words that they might not have been thinking about when they were doing that. Going through the hole, through the tunnel, in the middle of the box, at the top of the box, underneath the box.
Levita, as you were watching this, you had said earlier something about the equipment.
The equipment is just incredible. To have the space, to have such a variety of shapes and sizes, to provide the kids opportunities to explore is terrific. I was wondering about this particular room. Is this a gross motor room, or?
This is actually, we play in the basement of the preschool when it's rainy outside or too cold to play outside.
Perfect room.
And we have to put the equipment together in the morning. It's just basically waffle blocks that we assemble.
We have a gross motor room that has like one tunnel and one slide, and we thought that was something, but this is really terrific.
Would you have to have this sophisticated equipment in order to do the spatial explorations?
Oh, no, I don't think so. And actually, something we like to do a lot, I like to do a lot, is create obstacle courses for the children. If you've got a big space, or if you can even clear open your classroom, I set up chairs. For instance, we had astronaut training the other week. So I just set up rows of chairs that they had to weave in and out of, a plank that they had to walk over, like a balance beam, a table that they had to go under to feel how cramped it might be inside the space shuttle. But just using those words and anything you can find in the classroom.
Actually, I had an experience where an empty box, an empty refrigerator box, a carton from paper towels, opens up many arenas for exploration and pretend play, and dramatic play. A box could simply be
Could
a
be
boat.
anything.
Let's take a look at this. Now, remember, we're talking about the concept of space. Jenny, tell us how this relates to that.
Well, art projects, I think, always deal with space because you have to, or the child has to organize where he or she wants things on the page. And this project, which is sort of swinging paint, I think we called it, where the paintbrush is attached to the end of a piece of yarn, is interesting because it makes it really difficult to organize your space. You don't have control over the brush, and the children really have to experiment with how can they organize their space when they're sort of removed from that immediate control of holding onto the brush.
This was a wonderful project because they also respect each other's own space when you're just speaking of space in general. But it's not an issue if someone is close to their paper. I just think that's wonderful how they all just
And it's nice to
work
get
together.
a different perspective too, not just standing at an easel or sitting at sitting at a table, but sort of standing up, looking over their paper. It gives them a different perspective. They get to see the whole thing.
I noticed it's located right by a window, which offers another dimension of sunlight.
Even in art activities, again, you can explore space. Now we're in an area that I think is probably the most valuable and beneficial for learning anything, particularly math and science, and that's the block area.
Oh, we need just one more. Right there. Oh, look at that. Oh, this is going to be so good, right, Bench? Oh, that's why I put it there.
Special animals live.
And here I think we're going to be seeing the children's use of the blocks to create space. And here we see the children building a classic enclosure where they put the animals inside. Here's another shot of it.
It's kind of like a square.
Here, it is.
Yeah, he really had thought this out
That looks like
far
a nice home
more
for
deeply than I had expected when I asked him why he was building it, because the walls are all different levels of blocks. He has a great answer. He's explaining how some of the animals are a lot fatter than other animals, and so they need different size walls. And then this other little boy in the red shirt comes up and says, no, they all need to be tall because the animals can jump out.
This side is the
We
highest.
need to build them all really tall.
Because mine has the best.
But
Oh,
you're
so he has a
asking
really
these
big
open-ended
wall.
questions gives the children the opportunity to
And how come this
think
wall is so
through
high?
what it is that they've been doing, and then gives you insights into what they've been thinking and what they know.
It certainly promotes critical thinking. And critical thinking is very important when you are building a structure and sharing space with other children.
Sandra, you have blocks in your school, don't you?
Yes, we have the children come up with a lot of different formations. I find that they, like this little boy here, they always want to enclose something and cover it up, and they also want to get inside their buildings.
That's important because then we get that the idea of them in the space that they've created.
Right, yeah.
It's hard to balance so many on top of each other.
Come on, Benjamin.
It's important. We're concentrating on
Kinda lean
space
them
right
forward
now,
so
but
they're resting
as
on
one
the other ones. They balance
observes, and I
a little
probably
better,
will
don't
say
they?
this many times throughout this series, many things are learned in one activity. It isn't just the space, but, you know, of course, there's shape,
There we go.
balance, equivalencies. There's just so many mathematical concepts in blocks.
That's the reason I think the open-ended questions really help, because when you ask a child an open-ended question, they might lead you to discussing a concept that you weren't really thinking of when you saw what the child was building, but it's really what he or she had in mind. You know, you might want to talk about space, and they were measuring the blocks up against each other, so really it would be a good time to talk about measurement.
And one experience with blocks may lead to 20 other experiences. What if we put this over here on top of a scale?
Yeah.
Science. What if we put this in water? Will it float? Will it sink? And it allows opportunity for kids to see firsthand without us sitting and telling them.
I notice sometimes with the larger blocks, the children even make even bigger things. They do trucks and bus and cars, and we also use like different materials so that they can stimulate their interest with steering wheels and things like that.
This three-dimensional experience is very important because you certainly get that in blocks, but you also can get it in clay or other materials.
Oh, hey, you guys rebuilt your airport. This looks a lot neater than the other one. When it was in the earthquake, it was really messy, but you lined the blocks up in really straight lines.
When they had that earthquake, did they have a structure?
They went in with their little figures, and they destroyed the whole structure. The blocks were going every which way, tiles on top of each other. It was a real chaotic
The
scene.
second time they organized everything quite well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you can see it's real rigidly organized. Everything is straight, lined up next to each other.
Stop. Oh, this is
I
the
think the
hangar.
variety of blocks really helps bring out so many math concepts.
Almost all the blocks are going this way, except for these four, and these over here. Those are going the other way.
Do you find that your children spend a lot of time counting the blocks as they put them on top of each other, or?
I find
We've run out of our video, but Sandra will give you the opportunity to answer that question.
I find they do the same thing. They like make arrangements, then they put blocks on top of the other blocks, and it's like they do. They put them together, and then they take them apart and go into another dimension with them, into building garages and houses for the animals. And
I think it's important that we not lose sight of the fact that as we concentrate on the mathematical part of it, that we also have to deal with the dramatic play and the imaginative part, which is so important, I think, in children's learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to make the comment that you looked at what the children were doing and actually commented on what they had specifically done rather than to say, what did you do? And then they were able to say whatever it was they felt they wanted to say about it. And I think you can get more understanding of what they learned rather than say, what is it, which is easy enough to do. Mm-hmm. All right, any other comments about space?
That if you don't offer them an opportunity to talk about exactly what they're doing, if you don't ask those open-ended questions, then you'll block them in a space that's not comfortable for them. Asking what if and why and how come are those questions that really bring out that critical thinking and help them really think, well, why is this? Let's try something different. It's very important.